Hello, I'm Dr. Jane. If you've already passed 60, the information I'm about to reveal today goes far beyond simple medical advice. It could be the decisive key that guarantees you a full life and a worry-free old age, or it could mark the beginning of a long and torturous path characterized by prostate problems. What the vast majority of men don't understand is that with gestures that seem completely harmless, they are waging a silent and devastating war against their own prostate. Without even realizing it, they are feeding the invisible enemy that is growing inside them. In my daily practice, with vast experience treating gentlemen all over the country, I witness both sides of this reality. On one side, I see men arriving at my office in absolute despair, their social and private lives completely disrupted by the constant need to urinate, by acute discomfort, and, in the most critical cases, by the total inability to empty the bladder, an acute urinary retention medical emergency. All of this is tragic because for years they ignored the small warning signs their own body was whispering to them. But I also see, and this is the greatest privilege of my profession, men aged 80 or even 90 who radiate enviable vitality with perfect urinary function. Men who live without the shadow of the prostate constantly hovering over them. What is their secret? I assure you it is not a magic pill, and it is not just privileged genetics. The fundamental difference, the clear dividing line between suffering and well-being, lies in daily lifestyle habits, in that chain of decisions we make from the moment we wake up until the moment we go to sleep. Today we are going to examine in minute detail, one by one, the 10 most dangerous and most common habits that can inflame it silently but absolutely mercilessly. And I warn you in advance that habit number 1, which we will reveal at the end of this journey, is so widespread, so deeply rooted in our culture, that it is very likely that right now, without the slightest idea of the profound damage it is causing, you are practicing it. Has it ever happened to you to wake up in the middle of the night, to go to the bathroom while struggling to get the urine stream to start? Or do you feel that no matter what you do, the stream is weak, interrupted, almost drop by drop? Or do you know that frustrating and ever-present feeling that your bladder is full again shortly after urinating, as if it never emptied completely? This is not simply the inevitable discomfort of aging. These are your body's alarm sirens, a cry for help from your gland. If you have already experienced this frustration of a bladder that never seems to empty completely, know that you are not alone, and, starting today, we begin the journey to change this reality. Prostate enlargement, medically known as hyperplasia, is not an inevitable destiny, but the direct consequence of a chronic inflammatory process that is accelerated by factors that we can absolutely control. Let's start the countdown with habit number 10, a habit that at first sight seems counterintuitive but is terribly common, which is drinking too little water. Many older men reduce their fluid intake drastically in a seemingly logical but deeply mistaken attempt, especially in the afternoon and evening, to avoid nighttime bathroom visits. Their logic is simple. They think that if less water goes in, less urine will come out. But the biology of our urinary system is much more complex, and this strategy ends up being dangerously counterproductive. When you deprive your body of adequate hydration, the urine produced becomes extremely concentrated. Don't imagine it as a clear liquid, but as a viscous fluid saturated with metabolic waste such as urea and ammonia, with a much more acidic pH. This chemical concentration becomes a direct and aggressive irritant to the sensitive lining of your bladder, the bladder mucosa. Let us remember the basic anatomy, where the prostate is like an anatomical cushion that fits at the base of the bladder, and the urethra, the channel through which urine flows. When the bladder is chronically irritated and inflamed by this concentrated urine, The inflammation is not limited to it alone. Like a fire spreading through a dry forest, it extends, reaches neighboring tissue, and the prostate is the first and most direct victim of this inflammatory proximity. Thus, chronic dehydration keeps your gland in a constant state of irritation and inflammation day after day. And don't forget, inflammation is the main driver of tissue growth. Inflamed tissue is tissue that swells, increases in volume, and becomes dysfunctional. Furthermore, the problem worsens exponentially because many medications frequently prescribed to older men, such as diuretics for high blood pressure or certain antihistamines for allergies, have strong dehydrating effects, thus creating a perfect storm for male health. A dehydrated body is also a body where toxins are eliminated less efficiently, the lymphatic system becomes sluggish, the kidneys work under enormous stress, and the toxins that should be eliminated efficiently accumulate and overload the entire urogenital channel. Over time, this silent and cumulative damage turns into a noticeable increase in gland volume and a dramatic deterioration of all urinary symptoms that, ironically, you were trying to avoid. The solution is simple and elegant. Water must be your constant companion. It's not about drinking liters at once, which can overload the bladder. The key is to regularly take small sips throughout the day, always having a bottle of water ready. Get into the habit of waking up and drinking a glass of water to rehydrate the body after the overnight fast and another one between meals. Don't wait until you're thirsty, because thirst is already a sign that dehydration has begun. Use the color of your urine as your personal hydration indicator. It should be pale yellow, almost transparent. If it's dark and has a strong smell, it's an emergency signal from your body. Don't be afraid of water, my friend. It is your most powerful and natural ally in this fight. Let's move on to habit number 9, the tyranny of the chair. I know that with the years, that favorite armchair that fits your body perfectly becomes an increasingly attractive refuge. However, if you spend hours sitting in a chair, whether watching television, reading the newspaper, or working on the computer, you are exerting destructive and constant pressure on your pelvic area. This is a silent enemy that attacks through lack of movement. When you sit for prolonged periods, especially on hard or poorly designed surfaces, you exert constant physical pressure on the pelvic area and the perineum, the critical zone between the scrotum and the anus. This pressure compresses the essential blood vessels that supply oxygen-rich and nutrient-rich blood to the region. Imagine stepping on a garden hose and the water flow is reduced to a simple trickle. Exactly the same thing happens to blood circulation in your pelvic area. This reduced blood flow, called ischemia, deprives the cells of the oxygen and essential nutrients they urgently need to function properly and repair themselves. Poorly oxygenated tissue becomes inflamed, weakens, and becomes vulnerable. This constant pressure is a direct invitation to inflammation and therefore to tissue growth. Studies are clear, gentlemen. Men whose work or recreational activities condemn them to a sedentary lifestyle have a significantly higher risk of developing complications and severe urinary symptoms. But the damage doesn't stop there. Lack of movement also weakens an important muscle group that is rarely talked about, the pelvic floor. These muscles act like a net that supports the bladder and adjacent organs. When they are strong and toned, they help regulate urine flow and ensure complete and efficient bladder emptying. A sedentary lifestyle makes them loose and inactive. A weak pelvic floor makes the final contraction necessary to expel the last remnants of urine much more difficult, which leads to incomplete emptying. This residual urine stasis becomes an ideal breeding ground for bacteria and leads to chronic irritation that perpetuates the vicious cycle of inflammation. The solution is not to give up well-deserved rest, but to adopt uninterrupted movement. Establish the 30 for 2 rule. For every 30 minutes you are seated, get up and move for at least 2 minutes. It doesn't have to be intense training. Simply go to the kitchen to get that glass of water whose importance you now know, take a walk around the garden, or do some simple leg stretches. This simple gesture that breaks the sedentary cycle activates circulation, relieves direct pressure, and keeps the pelvic floor muscles active. Do not let the comfort of your chair become a life sentence for your health. Let's go to habit number 8, excessive caffeine consumption. Morning coffee, with its strong aroma and promise of energy, is for many a sacred and non-negotiable ritual, and 1 cup in the morning, in most cases, causes no major problems. The danger, as so often, lies in the dose and frequency. Excessive consumption of coffee and other caffeinated beverages, such as black tea, cola sodas, or energy drinks, can irritate your urinary system and worsen the symptoms of an already sensitive area. Caffeine has 2 main effects that are particularly problematic. First, it is a natural diuretic, telling your kidneys to produce more urine more quickly. For a healthy urinary system, this is not a problem, but if the urine flow is already partially blocked, this sudden increase in production overloads a bladder that is already struggling to empty, causing internal pressure and the feeling of urgency to increase. The second effect, possibly even more important, is that caffeine is a known bladder irritant. It acts directly on the detrusor muscle, the muscular wall of the bladder, and makes it contract more strongly and regularly. This leads to that urgent need to urinate, the need to run immediately to the bathroom, and in some cases can lead to bladder spasms that cause urine loss or urge incontinence. But the aggression does not stop at the bladder. Caffeine also has a constricting effect on the bladder neck, the strategic area where the bladder connects to the urethra. By contracting these muscles, it narrows the exit for urine, which makes complete emptying even more difficult. The result is a devastating vicious cycle where the bladder fills faster due to the diuretic effect, but empties with greater difficulty due to the narrowed bladder neck, leaving more residual urine. This stagnant urine in turn increases internal pressure and feeds inflammation. I'm not asking you to declare total war on coffee. Moderation is the winning strategy. Observe your body, and if you notice after your 2nd or 3rd cup of the day a significant increase in frequency or urgency of urination, that is a clear sign. Try a simple experiment by replacing that 2nd cup with a caffeine-free alternative. Try a calming herbal tea such as chamomile or lemon balm, or a high-quality decaffeinated coffee. Sometimes these small adjustments in our daily rituals make a surprisingly big difference to our comfort and our long-term health. We continue to habit number 7, the abuse of spicy and highly processed food. The gastronomic experience can be one of the great pleasures of life, but certain intense aromas and the convenience of modern food can charge a silent price on your organism. Let's talk first about very spicy food. An excess of spices such as strong peppers or extremely hot sauces can act as an irritant not only in the mouth, but throughout the digestive tract and therefore also in the urinary system. Although the active compound in moderate amounts can be beneficial, excessive and regular consumption causes a systemic inflammatory reaction. For a man with already sensitive and inflamed tissues, this additional inflammatory stimulus can be the drop that overflows the glass and worsen the burning or urgency sensation when urinating. An occasional spicy dish is probably not a problem. However, if your daily diet is based on extreme flavors, you may be paying the consequences. But the real culprit in this category, the number one enemy of your health, are highly processed foods. Think of packaged snacks, cured meats such as sausages and ham, microwave-ready meals, and fast food in general. These products are not real food. They are chemical mixtures designed to be extremely tasty and addictive, but nutritionally poor and deeply pro-inflammatory. They are full of preservatives, artificial colors, industrial amounts of sodium, and, what is worrying, bad fats such as trans fats and refined vegetable oils. These ingredients damage your health at the cellular level. Excess sodium not only raises blood pressure, but also causes fluid retention, which increases pressure on the entire circulatory system and the urinary system. Bad fats and chemical additives can alter the delicate hormonal balance of your body. In particular, they can influence testosterone levels and the hormonal conversion that drives unwanted tissue growth. If you look at your pantry and refrigerator and see more cans and packages than fresh ingredients, it's time for a radical change, my friend. The key is to prefer foods with natural anti-inflammatory effects, filling your plate with vibrant colors. Dark leafy greens, broccoli, bell peppers, tomatoes rich in lycopene, a powerful protector. Add antioxidant-rich fruits and choose fatty fish rich in omega-3 fatty acids and healthy fats such as avocado, nuts, and especially pumpkin seeds, which are rich in zinc, an essential mineral. Healthy eating habits don't have to be boring or restrictive. It's about intelligent balance that nourishes your body instead of inflaming it. Habit number 6, holding back the urge to urinate. This is a situation that we have all experienced, whether in an important meeting, stuck in traffic, or absorbed in a movie. When you feel the call of nature, the simple decision is to ignore it, wait until later, hold it a little. But if you turn this occasional action into a regular habit, it is a form of self-sabotage that affects your bladder and seriously damages your health. To understand the damage, imagine your bladder as an elastic muscular balloon. Its function is to fill gradually and, when it reaches a certain level of pressure, contract to efficiently expel the urine. When you voluntarily hold urine for a long time, you force this muscle to expand beyond its comfortable and safe capacity. This chronic stretching weakens the muscle fibers of the bladder wall, just as an elastic band loses its elasticity if repeatedly stretched to the maximum. A weakened bladder loses its ability to generate the contraction force necessary for complete emptying, which brings us back to the dreaded residual problem. But the mechanical damage is only part of the story. When expanded, the full bladder exerts direct physical pressure on the prostate, which is located just below it. This constant compression irritates and causes the tissue to swell. For older men whose muscular control is already compromised by age, this practice is particularly harmful. Furthermore, the stagnant urine that remains after incomplete bladder emptying continues to be a latent danger. It is a warm, nutrient-rich liquid, the perfect environment for bacteria that would normally be expelled to multiply and cause urinary tract infections. These infections can cause inflammations that easily spread and cause very painful conditions that require immediate treatment, perpetuating the long-term cycle of inflammation and growth. To protect yourself, cultivate a new habit. Listen to your body's signals and obey them. Don't postpone going to the bathroom. As soon as you feel a clear urge to urinate, go. This is especially important if you already have symptoms such as nighttime urination. Going to the bathroom immediately when you feel the urge is one of the simplest and most effective defense strategies available to you. Always remember that the bladder and the prostate form an inseparable team, and when one is under stress, the other inevitably suffers the consequences. We've reached habit number 5, smoking or exposure to secondhand smoke. It is no secret that cigarettes are devastating for the lungs and cardiovascular health, but their negative consequences extend to every corner of the body, and your intimate health is particularly vulnerable to their thousands of toxins. Smoking is undoubtedly one of the worst habits a man can have, and even if you don't smoke, regular and long-term exposure to secondhand smoke also represents a significant risk. Tobacco smoke contains thousands of chemicals, many of which are toxic and classified as carcinogenic. Substances such as heavy metals found in high concentrations in cigarettes have been directly associated with a higher risk of serious problems. The main mechanism of damage occurs through the circulatory system. Nicotine and carbon monoxide are powerful vasoconstrictors, narrowing blood vessels throughout the body, including the sensitive arteries that supply vital blood to the pelvic region. Reduced blood circulation means less oxygen, fewer nutrients, and slower elimination of metabolic waste from the tissue. This condition of oxygen deprivation and toxin accumulation creates a chronic inflammatory environment, the ideal breeding ground for disordered tissue growth. In addition, smoking causes a storm of oxidative stress in the body, a process similar to accelerated cellular aging. Unstable molecules caused by tobacco smoke are produced in large quantities, damaging healthy cells. The body has antioxidant defense mechanisms to combat this damage, but smoke depletes them and weakens the natural repair capacity. Over time, this cumulative oxidative damage causes persistent inflammation and an increase in the gland. In older men whose cellular repair systems already work more slowly, the damage accumulates at an alarming rate. If you still smoke, the most powerful decision you can make for your health and your overall well-being is to seek help to quit. Talk to your doctor because there are therapies and support programs whose effectiveness is proven. The benefits begin almost immediately. Within a few weeks, blood circulation improves, inflammation levels begin to decrease, and the tissue has the opportunity to recover. If you have never smoked, congratulations. Your task now is to protect yourself against secondhand smoke, avoiding closed spaces where smoking is allowed, a decision that can ensure years of better health. This leads us to habit number 4, omitting regular checkups. In our culture, the strong man who never complains and only goes to the doctor when the pain becomes absolutely unbearable is often seen as a model of strength. This stoic approach to health is, in reality, dangerous and self-destructive, especially after the age of 60. Prostate enlargement is a treacherous process that can progress silently for years without causing clear symptoms in the early stages. When symptoms finally appear, the problem may already be advanced. Regular urological checkups are your early warning system, your radar to detect problems long before they become a crisis. In this context, I remember a patient, a strong and active man of 62, who always boasted of not needing to go to the doctor. For him, getting up once or twice at night to urinate was simply part of aging, and he ignored the gradual deterioration of the strength of his urine stream and the feeling of incomplete emptying. He was embarrassed to talk about these issues and did not come to the office of his own free will, but because his worried wife insisted. When he was finally examined, it was not a small discomfort. He was suffering from acute retention, an incredibly painful condition where the bladder is full, but the pathway is so compressed that urination becomes impossible. It was an emergency that required immediate intervention. A simple blood test and a physical exam a few years earlier would have identified the problem at a stage where it could have been treated easily with simple changes. Instead, he had to endure an invasive procedure and a long road to recovery. His story is a powerful reminder that prevention is not an option, but an urgent necessity. Checkups are quick, easy, and can preserve your quality of life. By postponing consultations out of fear or shame, you lose the valuable opportunity to act preventively. The sooner an inflammation or abnormal growth is observed, the greater the range of natural and less invasive treatment options available. Don't wait until symptoms determine your life, my friend. Schedule a consultation at least once a year with your doctor, not seeing it as a sign of weakness, but as the most intelligent and proactive action a man can decide for his future and his family. Habit number 3, excessive consumption of red meat. A good barbecue or piece of roasted meat is a cornerstone in our culture and a source of culinary pleasure. However, if red meat appears daily on your plate, you may be promoting, without knowing it, unwanted tissue growth. Studies have established a clear relationship between high consumption of red meat, especially processed ones, and an increase in inflammatory markers throughout the body. The main culprits are saturated fats and the chemical compounds used in processing and high-temperature cooking. Red meat is rich in arachidonic acid, which the body uses to produce powerful inflammatory mediators. Consumed in large quantities, this tilts the balance toward a chronic inflammatory state. In addition, during the cooking of meat at high temperatures, whether grilled, fried, or very roasted, harmful compounds are formed that increase oxidative stress. In older men, whose digestive system often becomes slower, red meat, which is harder to digest, remains longer in the intestines, causing digestive problems and contributing to greater pressure in the pelvic area. You don't have to become a vegetarian, my friend. The key, as so many times, is moderation and intelligent alternatives. Try to reduce your red meat consumption to 1 or 2 times a week, and instead enrich your diet with lean and anti-inflammatory protein sources. Fish, especially fatty fish, is an excellent choice because of its high content of omega-3 fatty acids that actively fight inflammation. Grilled or roasted chicken or turkey are also good alternatives, and do not underestimate the power of plant proteins, incorporating more legume-based meals. These changes will not only promote your health, but also your digestion, the cardiovascular system, and will improve your energy levels. Your body will thank you with fewer symptoms and better function in the long term. Habit number 2, ignoring abdominal fat. With increasing age, men tend to accumulate fat around the waist, the famous little belly. This change in body composition is not just an aesthetic problem or a question of pants size, because this visceral fat is a metabolically active organ that represents a critical warning sign. Visceral fat is not an inactive mass. It produces and triggers a cascade of chemical substances, including pro-inflammatory cytokines. These substances circulate in the blood and promote a low-grade chronic inflammatory state throughout the body, and the prostate, being an especially sensitive tissue, is one of the most affected organs. This constant inflammation irritates the tissue, contributes directly to its growth, and significantly increases the risk of serious urinary problems. The data is clear. Men with a larger abdominal circumference have a much higher probability of developing complications, but the hormonal aggression is possibly even more treacherous. Visceral adipose tissue is rich in an enzyme called aromatase, whose function is to convert androgens, such as testosterone, into estrogen. In a man with excess abdominal fat, this transformation accelerates, which leads to a hormonal imbalance, relatively lower testosterone and higher estrogen levels. This altered hormonal profile has been directly related to the promotion of cellular growth in the region. Let us not forget the purely mechanical factor, because the mass of visceral fat exerts constant physical pressure on the pelvic organs. Imagine constantly carrying extra weight around the lower abdomen. That is the load that presses 24 hours a day on your bladder, worsening urgency and the feeling of pressure. The solution does not lie in extreme and unsustainable diets, but in the introduction of slow, constant, and cumulative improvements. Start with small changes, replacing simple carbohydrates with whole grains, drastically reducing sugar, controlling portion sizes, and incorporating daily walks. Even a small weight loss can lead to noticeable relief of urinary symptoms. A healthy waist circumference is not vanity. It is one of the most powerful and sustainable strategies you can adopt to protect your health. And we come to habit number 1, not being able to manage chronic stress. We have arrived at the most dangerous of all habits precisely because it is the most invisible, the most underestimated, and the one that most men completely ignore. Chronic stress is a silent poison. If you live in a state of constant anxiety, tension, worry, or overload, your body switches to permanent survival mode. This state leads to the continuous release of stress hormones, especially cortisol. In the short term, cortisol is useful, but when it remains chronically elevated, it causes havoc. Over time, these hormones cause systemic inflammation, chronic muscle tension, and hormonal imbalances that directly affect your intimate health. Stress has a direct physical effect on the pelvis. It involuntarily stretches the pelvic floor muscles, further reduces blood flow in this area, and irritates local nerves. This condition, sometimes confused with other inflammations, can dramatically worsen symptoms and imitate them. In addition, chronically elevated cortisol levels affect immune function, making it difficult for the body to fight inflammation effectively. Older men often carry a tremendous burden of stress, whether financial worries, family problems, illnesses, or the deterioration of their own health. All this adds up, and the physical result is more frequent urination because stress activates the bladder, pelvic discomfort, and constant urgency. But here is the good news, my friend. Unlike other factors, stress management is completely under your control and does not require drastic measures. Simple habits that you can do daily can reduce your stress levels and therefore inflammation dramatically. Try deep breathing, inhaling slowly, holding the air, and exhaling long. Repeat this for a few minutes. Incorporate light physical activity such as a walk in nature, which has been proven to reduce cortisol levels. Dedicate a few minutes a day to silence without screens or distractions. Laughter, social contact with friends and family, and high-quality sleep are extremely powerful remedies. Stress management is not just about feeling mentally better. It means healing your body from the inside out. This change alone can help reduce symptoms and slow unwanted growth in a completely natural way. It is undoubtedly the most powerful step you can take from today toward a healthier, calmer, and more comfortable life. What are you going to do from today? Now that you know the 10 habits that can gradually worsen your condition, the decisive question is, what are you going to change from today? It's not about insignificant or small adjustments. It's about taking powerful measures that can spare you months, if not years, of discomfort, sleepless nights, emergency visits, and dependence on medications with side effects. If you are over 60, this is the moment to act. Don't wait until the symptoms become unbearable. Start with something small but meaningful. Decide to adopt a single habit to change this week. Commit to drinking more water, getting up from your chair more times, or improving your diet. Every positive action, even the smallest, is a vote for your health. Your body will not change overnight, but with the right habits and consistency, your body's resistance is surprising. Remember that you are not alone on this journey. With the right information and the decision to respect yourself, it is never too late to start. Your health is in your hands. It's not too late. Rewrite your story. Start today. Choose one habit and commit to that change. And if you found this content added value to your life, if it gave you new hope and a practical tool, please leave your like. It's not vanity, it's public utility. When you like, YouTube understands that this is a video that saves lives and improves health, and it shows it to more men who need to hear this right now. Share it in your friends group, send it to your brother, your husband. Let's create a community of men who age with strength, with health, and with their heads held high. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell. In the next video, I will talk about a specific nighttime ritual to increase testosterone while you sleep, which perfectly complements what we learned today about circulation. You won't want to miss it. My commitment is to your best version. Take care of your circulation, and it will take care of you in the moments that matter most. Stay strong, stay focused, and above all, keep your blood flowing. See you in the next one.